force sparked energy and matter, creating stars, galaxies, planets, and evolving into the cosmos we see today. Once, our ancestors gazed upon the stars, seeking answers. Mysteries turned to myths. Myths became beliefs. These led us to explore beyond what we see. It's time to transcend platforms and embrace the infinite possibilities that await us. In this vast expanse of the universe, space stands as the ultimate platformless environment. The existence of Earth offers countless opportunities to make an impact, bigger than anything imaginable. This paves the future, where we build a platformless foundation, a system, and a livelihood. We are taking you to a future where the past meets the present, and the future is beyond limits. The real impact is bigger than we ever imagined. WSO2Con 2024. It's time to go platformless. Please welcome the founder and CEO of WSO2, Sanjiva Weerawarana.
All right. Thank you very much, and thank you again. Let me also add my welcome and thank you, as Devaka did. Thank you for coming to this conference. I think we are back as WSO2Con with a 6-year gap because of COVID, and it's tough these days to find time and mechanisms to get to a place, so really appreciate everybody being here. Thank you very much. So I'm sure you're wondering what this space business is and what it's got to do with building enterprise technology, which is what we do. So let me try to connect the dots and explain that to you, and I'll cover a little bit about how we weave that through in our work as we go along. All right. So if you go back to Greek mythology, there is this guy called Atlas. He's a titan, and he was cursed to carry the weight of the heavens on his shoulders for eternity. And there's a whole long story behind that, and there's a lot more to it than this. And I'm certainly not an expert in Greek mythology, so I'm not going to get into the details of it. But the point is, there is this sort of understanding that there is somebody keeping the sky away from the earth. At that time, the heavens was not necessarily the universe. Those concepts were not as well formed as we are today. And of course, what's this got to do with the enterprise? So the way we look at this is, when you connect it to the enterprise, in the enterprise, many of you, and the technology that we create for you, is all about building infrastructure so somebody else can build experiences. We are not SAP, we are not Microsoft, we don't build end-user applications. We build a set of technology that you use to create applications. And the teams that put that together within the enterprise essentially create a platform so you can create applications on top of that for your consumers. And in some sense, that platform is very much Atlas, because they are condemned eternally to hold the heavens on their shoulders, because effectively, the sort of the no-win team in some sense, because you keep building, nobody's ever satisfied with what you have, and you have to keep on facilitating everything else on top. And this part of my talk is about understanding how we change that mindset and how we get to a better position than being sort of cursed to hold it together forever. So everybody's heard this line, every company is a software company. I think this is one of the most repeated lines now. And why is that important? It's important because the experiences a company creates becomes a competitive advantage. Because more and more, every business, there are many competing businesses for any business, whether it is Hard Rock, or whether it's Hilton, or whether it's any other hospitality provider, there are competing businesses. Now, what Hard Rock has done with the Unity platform, which you're going to hear about in a little bit when Macario speaks, is all about creating awesome experiences, digitally connecting everything and giving people an amazing experience. That becomes a competitive advantage. That becomes an advantage for why somebody chooses to stay at this kind of facilities versus some other kind of facilities. And those experiences cannot be bought. You have to create them, right? So what that means is every business, if you are using digital as a tool for competitive advantage, has to create software. And that's what this tagline, sort of, that every company is a software company means. But of course, it's not easy to do that. So there was a really great McKinsey article that came out in December 2022. This is fully worth reading if you haven't seen this. It identifies 6 different traits or different aspects that you must go after in order to deliver on this statement, every company is a software company. Let me just briefly go through the 6. The first is that commit to a software culture. And software culture is a different kind of culture from a non-software culture. Software culture involves failing fast, involves experimentation, involving accepting iteration, involves lots of things that are not the traditional way of doing business. So accepting a software culture and committing to that culture in a business is not something that is easy for a business to do. For if you're an insurance company, if you're a shipping company, if you're a retail company, if you're a manufacturer, if you're a food service company, software is not the thing. It's a thing that enables you to do stuff. But to now become competitively advantaged using software, you need to create and adopt a software culture, which is quite difficult. The second one is invest in empowered product managers. So empowered product managers means the people who deliver software, the people who own that product and the experience, they must be able to operate within their realm, with their customers, and deliver what they need to deliver without having to go through all kinds of organizational structure and politics. Engineering excellence becomes critical. Autonomous teams and flexible architecture. If a business has a very rigid structure, whether it's a team structure or the architecture, it's very, very difficult to innovate. Because innovation comes not from doing things from scratch anymore. Innovation comes from building on things other people have done to create new things, new experiences, new qualities, new capabilities, new whatever. To do that, you need to have access to everything. So the flexible architecture matters a lot. The software ecosystem game is very important. Software ecosystem game basically means it's what Gartner calls composable business. So the idea is that if you don't get into the mode of saying, hey, I'm not going to create everything. I'm going to offload as much as possible. It's in the service-oriented economy, it's about saying I'm going to consume services from somebody else to do my business. In the software world, it's saying I'm going to consume APIs or events or various units of software capability in building what I need. And on the internet, this has been done quite well. If you want to send SMSs to somebody, you would use Twilio or a competitor to Twilio. You would never try to figure out how do I do it without that. It's not worth it, right? Similarly, there are many layers of APIs and capabilities that are available on the internet. But when you come within the business, it's a lot more difficult. Some businesses have done that really, really well and managed to create that kind of infrastructure. But creating that is critical to being able to become a software company. And of course, if you are a software company, you also need to learn how to sell software or go to market with the software. Use software as a differentiator, not just the physical or the non-software capabilities of the business. The last part is absolutely important. In the end, software doesn't get written by itself, at least not yet, not till AI takes over and puts us all out of a job. But we're not there yet, and maybe we'll get there, maybe we won't get there. But it's not there yet. So people have to write this stuff. Developers have to write this stuff. So if developers don't enjoy the environment that they have to work in and they're frustrated, they won't work there. There was a time, if you guys remember, there was something called Facebook for Work that came up a long time ago. I think it's gone now. Right? It was basically an internal social network. And now, of course, there are similar capabilities in multiple things. At that time, if you worked in a company that was running on IBM mainframes, right? I used to work at IBM for 8 years, and IBM's a great company. Mainframes are an incredible product, but green screen experience, right? Form filling on simple screens. That was how you got things done within the business. If that's how you have to do things versus you have a much more experienced, convenient way through an app that that knows your calendar, knows everything, just works, then it's a better place to work, basically. So a software engineer who wants to be able to operate and create experiences effectively, they need that experience. Otherwise, they will find a better place to work. So if you get people involved with things that are not relevant and interesting for them, they will move on to something else, and you will not get the best engineers. Now, some of these are actually very directly related to technology. Some of them are about business strategy, board-level decisions, which is beyond our level of influence capability. So I'm going to try to explain how you can achieve the others, basically. So in the end, if you put all those three things together, what the business really wants to see is there are product owners, there are customers, employees, etc., and they have multiple digital experiences. The digital experiences can be through an app, can be through a web app, can be through some integration. You get an email every day with something. You get an alert saying your room is ready. Whatever the thing it is, those are all digital experiences. Building those and owning what that capability should be is the product owner. Now, they need technical stuff. Right? They need architecture, you need development, and you need operations, delivery and operations. That is something that is done by the developers, or developers in quotations, because not just developers, there's an entire ecosystem of people involved with that problem. And ideally, you want to do that with a capabilities marketplace that is shared across the enterprise. So whenever I want something new, I don't go and start from scratch and go and build something again. I don't have to go down to the lowest level and build it up. I have capabilities that are abstracted away and that are available for me to use. And that's the place that you want to get to. But what your business gets is not that. Right? All of you are familiar with all of these terms. There's a whole bunch of technical stuff that you have to go through. And then there are initiatives on each one of these things. On the left side are the infrastructure level side. On the right are the architecture level side. The architecture kind of capabilities that people focus on, whether it is domain-driven design or any one of these things. All of these are major initiatives within every business. And if every company is trying to go through all this stuff, that's a lot of work. Right? So the problem is that when you focus on all of those things, not on those experiences, then you're keeping your eyes on Atlas. You're focusing on somebody being there to hold everything together. Whereas the real value within the business doesn't come from that. The real value within the business comes from the applications that you deliver, the experiences that you deliver. So the ideal structure should be one where the focus is not on the platform that helps you build things, but the applications that you build on top of the platform. Of course, you need a platform, you need all the capabilities, but it should be sort of melding away from you, not being in your focus. So how do you get there, basically? So now I'm going to make the next speaker cringe with my very, very poor understanding of this topic, because the next speaker is a specialist in this, but I will do a little bit of it anyway. There was an era when there was this kind of Atlas kind of mindset where somebody's holding things up. But we know that's not how the world works now, how the system works. It's beyond the world. We know that there are other things that make the universe work, and we have an entire presentation about it. And the point is that it's there, but it's not there. It's not there in the sense that we can't see it. It's called dark because we can't interact with it. And again, Professor Randall will talk a lot more about it and give you a lot better understanding of it. The point is, in the universe, things just appear to work, but there's a lot more to it than what you can see. And that's how you want the enterprise to become, where things just appear to work. There's a lot more to it than what you can see. Somebody obviously works on it. Now, in the universe case, I'm not getting into the question of who works on that part. That's a whole different philosophical question. Let's not go there. But in the enterprise, most of you are in areas of work because that's what we support. Right? As a technology company, we build platforms and technology that helps you build those things. Let me just give an analogy so you can get your head around this completely. Collaboration. Right? So in 1990, I think I used to run all email to Sri Lanka. I was a grad student, and there was a group of people who voluntarily delivered email to Sri Lanka. We used to make international phone calls every day those days to deliver email via UCP. And when WSO2 started in 2005, obviously you needed email. We signed up for email from pair.com, which was a hosted email provider. This is pre-Google days, pre-Gmail days. Then over time, we wanted a chat server, so we downloaded a Jabber server, XMPP server, Jabber, right? We had a Jabber server, we were running a Jabber server and different clients for different machines. If you wanted file sharing, you would have, if it was Windows, you'd have an SMB drive set up or an NFS drive so you could mount it, right? But that all works within one office. We were globally distributed from day one. Paul, who was my co-founder, was living in UK, and we had a third person who was living in the US. So you can't mount file systems across the world like that. Even through a VPN, it'll never work. Anyway, the point is, that's this email. right? Then if you want to have chat, you want to have calendar. At one point, we tried to get CalDAV set up. It's impossible level of work you have to do. And then once you get it set up, you have to keep operating it. Antivirus systems have to be updated. Spam detection, the rules have to be updated. There's a bunch of stuff. And then you have multiple clients, and so on, and so on, and so on. So you spend a massive amount of time setting up and keeping things going, not collaborating. Today, if you start a company, you would pick either Google or Microsoft for the most part, and there are a few others, but I'll just pick on the two primary ones, right? And setting up is trivially simple. You add a few DNS records, and you're up and running. And a non-business person can do it because for most, non-technical person can do it because for most DNS systems and so forth, they have it pre-integrated. You just say, who's your DNS provider, or you put your domain name, they know who the DNS provider is. They tell you exactly what to do. Right? It's trivially simple, it's off and running. There's nothing to operate, you just add users. Of course, you keep paying, which is the important part, right? And it's quite expensive as time goes along, it becomes very expensive. We pay lots of money to these guys. But it just works. Right? We don't ask the question, did you get the email? You don't ask the question, can I have a meeting with you? Because I can see your calendar. I don't ask the question, if you have a real-time conversation to have, there's nothing to think about. If you need to share documents, there's nothing to think about. Everything just works. So as a business, we now go from setting stuff up and operating to just collaborating. Right? And that's really where you want to get to, where there is an underlying platform that you can do things, but you don't focus on those things. In this case now, there's obviously a massive platform. And in fact, the complexity of the underlying platform that Google and Microsoft and others run, so we can just collaborate, is incredible. Right? It just works wherever you are in the world. It works with very, very good performance. It works very reliably. Of course, things go down once in a way. I mean, nothing is perfect, right? Something will happen. But the collaboration, the problem it solves for me as a consumer, as a user of the technology, is that I don't need to think about it. It just works, except for paying the bill. So this is where you want to get to as a business. Now let me dig in a little bit further about the platform engineering and where we are going with these things. This concept of digital experiences, it's not just about a single app. It's not about a website. It's not only about, there are many, many things. If you look in WSO2, I think we have about 60, 70 different applications that we have built, the sort of primary applications that we built around the company. And there are various other dashboards that pull various things and so forth. We depend on about 50 different SaaS systems underneath. Right? WSO2 runs everything on various SaaS systems, about 50 different SaaS systems. And we are a small company. When you go to a larger company, I think Gartner has a study that says the average company has about 130 different SaaS systems. And they have 20,000 applications. The larger companies have about 20,000 applications. When I was in IBM, when I left IBM in 2005, there were 40,000 applications inside IBM. IBM had 400,000 employees. Right? So those experiences, those applications, they might be for applying for leave, might be applying for a new laptop, might be saying whatever, right? All these things that you need to do in the business to keep it operating. And those are internal facing. Then you have customer facing stuff like, did the package arrive? Do you get notifications? Ordering stuff. All these things are depending on the kind of the organization that you are. But obviously to build, when you have so many different things, you don't build one by one. You need an underlying business platform, which puts together all the capabilities of the business and makes them available as units of composable capability that you can build on top. This is what Gartner calls composable business. So creating that digital platform within the business is the chief architect's job. That's the internal business problem. We can't help with that. We can help in a supporting kind of way, but our technology can only facilitate you to do that. You have to decide what are the things that are the units that should be available, what are the units that should be shared in a particular way, what are the data elements that should be available, what are the events, what are the APIs. All of those things have to be done by each business by themselves. That is why there is an architecture responsibility within a company to become a software company. And this layer is what really makes you different and from somebody else. The better the foundation platform that you have built, the better the experiences you can continue to deliver and create over and over again as time goes along. And that's something to always also understand, that building digital experience is not a one-time thing. It's a permanent capability of the business. It's something that will never finish because it's like doing financial reports. You have to keep doing it. And it never finishes, and you have to keep evolving and improving them because that's what the market expects. Otherwise, you become competitively poor. Underneath this is a thing that you need, but you shouldn't be focusing on, which is what a platform engineering team typically builds. Right? It's the guys who are the atlases within the organization, many of you in companies. That foundation, the modern term for that is internal developer platform. There is a new category of product now called internal developer platform. The team that builds it is typically called a platform engineering team, used to be called DevOps team, and so on. But these are the current terms that people are using. And really, within there are two levels of capabilities that you need to have. One is the ability to take a piece of software you built and take it through a pipeline, a delivery pipeline, a deployment pipeline, and getting up and running and get it managed and operated at scale, at the scale that you need for your business. That's a very, very critical infrastructure. That's the sort of the modern, the evolution of the SDLC pipeline, the software development lifecycle tool chain, and there are many companies that offer that. The next layer is slightly more subtle and more complicated. The next layer is when you actually get software engineering support. What does that mean? What does software engineering support mean? Well, to build a composable platform, you need a set of things. You need all that stuff, if you remember that I had on the right about domain-driven design, API management, API-first design, microservices, all these things. And I'm sure, as many of you know, when you take those ideas and concept and try to actually implement it, you have to put together some kind of an operating environment so all the developers in the company operate within that framework. That framework and the processes and the methodologies inside that is the software engineering platform. And that's a very critical part as well, as part of the lower level that you need to have in order to say, hey, I can just focus on the part that gives me competitive advantages versus the part that doesn't give me competitive advantages. Right. So the software engineering side, to dig in a little bit further, so there's sort of the development time and there's a run time. The development time, the engineering time of it, there is the domain-driven design, APIs, microservices, marketplaces, finding APIs, discovery, the CI/CD pipeline, all of that is needed to develop, right? And when the code is running, those domains need to be managed at runtime. You need to have isolation rules. You need to have the right kind of technical underlying support. So if you're deploying, say, on a Kubernetes platform or some other platform, how do I get those enforced so that people don't violate the rules that I set up? I have a domain saying these things are working together, but somebody else finds a link or someone sends a link and calls it. That's not good. Right? How do you prevent that? We published a paper some years ago called cell-based architecture, which is becoming more and more popular as a way to implement this large-scale distributed systems with isolation. And so a domain can be mapped into a set of cells very cleanly. And you need API management. So all of these things is what you need to have. In addition to the process, the tools for taking the code that somebody writes and commits into a repository of some kind, takes it through to different development environment, test environment, and so on, and gets it into production. Right? All of that you need, plus you need this layer as well. When you have that, what you end up is you can now just say, I just want to add developers. I don't need to focus on the underlying boxes. I don't care anymore. That's very important, but it's there. I just add developers who create digital experiences, not build infrastructure. Right? Building infrastructure is fun and cool. This is a thing that when you learn computer science, one of the things you learn is instead of solving the problem that you're given, you solve the problem that solves the problem. Right? That's what abstraction means in computer science. So we are mentally programmed to operate that way. But the problem is if I'm a retail company, I don't care that you are learning how to make a scalable distributed architecture underneath. That's not relevant. Right? So that's the tech company's problem, not the vendors, not the particular business's problem. So of course you don't have to, how do you get to this kind of experience? We have customers, I think some of them are in this room, who have built incredible platformless experiences for themselves. We have one customer where they have 5 supported languages. They have full a declarative approach for development. The developers write the code. They write a spec saying this is what we want deployed. They indicate the dependencies. Everything gets resolved. Everything gets built. And they get a URL saying, OK, it's running here. Right? The developers don't have to do anything else. They just focus on writing code. So, and they're, of course, one of our customers, so they use our own technologies to build that. There are also these tools like Backstage, for example, that are great, that do some of that part of that layer. Most of these tools currently focus on the software delivery part of the problem, not the software engineering part of the problem. Right? Enterprise software engineering is hard, and it's important because you have many competing entities writing code, but yet you want to collaborate. So you need to create some kind of an architecture and a framework and an operating environment that lets the business create that value. And that part is not there with a thing like Backstage. You have to build on top of that, which is, of course, possible. And then there are SaaS products, a bunch of Backstage kind of products. Now, I think there's more and more products. All the vendors are announcing products in this internal developer platform space. Choreo is our offering. I'm going to talk a little bit about Choreo when I talk about updates on the product. But there are many ways to do this. So the point that I want to get across is the concept of being platformless is about getting a business to be able to focus on the digital value that you create and deliver, not on the digital infrastructure that you need to build in order to create the digital value. And that digital infrastructure must be there, so that you cannot have a platformless environment without a platform, just like you don't have wireless without wires. There is a wire behind the scenes, you just don't see it. Similarly, in a platformless environment, there is a platform underneath that lets you be platformless. And that's the experience that we think that you should all create within your own enterprises. This is not a product pitch, not pitching you Choreo. Choreo is an experience that does that for you as a service, and we have several customers here who are using that. But it is also it is something that you can build yourself, and many customers have done it very successfully, especially larger companies have done it very successfully. And that's very important because it certainly can be done that way. All right, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and give a quick whirlwind tour of some product updates. Before I get into this, there are in the afternoon session, there are talks by each of the product BU general managers where we give you a more detailed update. So I'm just giving you a very high-level story of what we've been up to and what's being announced, released right now. So just a high-level overview of our product structure. We have essentially sort of two sides to the picture. We have a set of technology we create, which is completely open source, and we can run it for you in a private cloud, and the capabilities are available in SaaS as well from us. And we have the platformless, the internal developer platform, Choreo. Right? That's and within the technology, we have API management integration and identity and access management. Let me dig into API management. So the WSO2 API Manager is a product that we've had since 2012. Which is a product that can run on any kind of infrastructure, any virtual machine infrastructure it can run on. APK is a new one we released last year, API platform for Kubernetes. It runs only on Kubernetes. It is designed as a native extension of the Kubernetes abstractions for API management. Right? It's a very deeply integrated experience for Kubernetes that you get from that. And Choreo for API management is a SaaS API management. So we just released version 4.3 of the API Manager product, which can now also act as a control plane for APK version 1.1, which was just released. In reverse, APK gateway can also act as APK can be a gateway for API Manager as well. So, and both sides are fully supported. There's a lot of AI work that we're doing. I'm going to talk about the AI capabilities in different places. There's an AI-driven testing and discovery tool that we have built. We actually built this as a separate thing. Now we include it into the product as well, where if you have an API, you can just talk to it with natural language, and it'll run that API, and it uses an agent approach, so it can compose any number of underlying resource invocations, generate all the data, make the calls, and show you what you're looking for. Right? We don't recommend it to be used in production because AI still tends to go crazy every once in a while and dream up things that don't exist, which could be dangerous in production. So it's definitely a testing tool, not a production tool. On the integration side, we have two products and a SaaS offering. Microintegrator is the evolution of our enterprise service bus product, which is a DSL-based tool for integration. And Ballerina Swan Lake is the language approach for doing integration. And Choreo for integration is an iPaaS, basically, where you can host either of those two and operate integrations in the cloud. Now, I just want to comment briefly on integration. We, as a company, didn't put a lot of focus on integration for a while. We focus a lot on API management. And we are going to put a lot more focus, and we're putting a lot of effort into bringing integration back into focus and putting a lot of effort. We are releasing a bunch of things now, and we have a whole long roadmap of capabilities that we are planning to build. Because integration is a very fundamental capability. And we have great technology, but we haven't kind of made it all the way through, and we are going to be doing that a lot more going forward. So the first piece of this is a brand new plugin that's available for VS Code. What you see on the left-hand side is the older plugin, which is based on Eclipse RCP. What's on the right-hand side is the VS Code plugin. So as you can see, it's a lot cooler looking. It's very important. The developer experience is beautiful. And it actually can work with any existing project as well. You don't have to do anything. It just works. And you get a beautiful visual experience for writing integrations in a very, very friendly and nice way. Also, there is an AI capability. There's a copilot where you can talk to it with natural language, and you can say, I want to do this kind of integration, and it'll generate the integration. Or you can take an existing integration and tell it, saying, I want to tweak it, and it'll tweak that for you. Right? And on the Ballerina side also, there's a bunch of language improvements. I am not going to go through that. The update 9 just shipped yesterday or day before, which has a whole ton of improvements. Plus, there's an AI-based mapping capability as well. You just click the button. You have to wait a little bit. AI is not that fast yet. And when you are done waiting, you get a picture saying, OK, it's all done. Do you want to keep this one? Right? And then you can tweak it. So what it does is it does a natural language analysis to understand what these fields mean and what's the best appropriate mapping, and it does it for you. Right? So it's convenience, basically. There's a new offering that we've kind of pulled out of the microintegrator. Microintegrator product has an admin tool, a control plane. We're actually refactoring that into an integration control plane so that it can control both integrations running in microintegrator as well as Ballerina, and make it into a common control plane. So you can see all the integrations that are running in the enterprise and manage them in a convenient way. This is available now, and you can play with it as well. So the other side of our business is IAM. Oops, sorry. I mean to click twice. And here we have 2 products. We just released Identity Server version 7 about a month or a couple of months ago. And that's being moved into Asgardio as we go along. Asgardio is a SaaS version. So this is a little bit different from Choreo's story, because Asgardio is a SaaS version of the Identity Server. Right? And so it's the same code base, actually, with a little bit of added stuff, because obviously you need self-registration, billing, and things like that you need to have when you have a SaaS product. But the underlying code base is the same. And so the experiences that you get, whether it's a B2B kind of functionality or B2C functionality, there's full capabilities available in both products. There's a ton of improvements that we've done to make the user experience feel nicer, to be able to help you build the login screens the way you want it to look like, etc. A bunch of additional authorization support. AI-assisted branding. So when you're building your login screens, you can just put the URL of your company, and it'll go pull the data from that and make the login screen look like your company's one without having to do anything. Right? Yeah. And again, another natural language way to create login flows. So you can say, OK, I want to have multi-factor authentication. And each factor, I want to have multi-step authentication. Each first step should have these factors. Next step should have those factors. It'll generate the underlying login flow for you. Right? Just makes the goal here is just bring in generative AI into the product experiences in a natural form, and do it in a way that is safe as well, because AI is still in a relatively early stage. Okay, coming to Choreo. Choreo is our internal developer platform, as I mentioned. It's a SaaS-only product. All the other products have a SaaS and open source side. Before I go on, let me just briefly talk about our open source commitment. We started the company in 2005. At that time, open source was a rebel. That's the time when Microsoft was going around saying open source is evil. SAP was saying open source is evil. All these kind of things. But now Microsoft is the largest contributor to open source. And SAP also has a ton of open source stuff that they use and create. And that's the world has accepted open source as the better way to build software. And in certain domains like machine learning, artificial intelligence, LLMs, open source is actually leading many of the non-open source areas. So we've been an open source company from day one. And we did that for multiple reasons. One is, we are a company, we built the company out of a group of technical people living in Sri Lanka, and we're trying to compete globally. So how do you compete globally when you have your marketing budget, capacity to reach markets is zero compared to the ones that you're competing with? So the better thing was, well, we create a better product and give it all away free. That's been our thesis from day one. We build a better product and give it away free. And Devaka mentioned a whole bunch of customers who are using us and many of the stories about us. But for every one of the paying customers, we have somewhere between 10 to 100 times that number using in production use in open source. Right? So we get about 20,000, 30,000 downloads a month across our product portfolio. And people are using it open source all over the place, which is great. We are not a company that is out here saying we are going to try to monetize every single open source user, because if you try to do that, you are against the point of being open source. Open source is about enabling people to do things that they wouldn't be able to do. It's about giving people freedom with the software, right? And freedom, especially in the current global conditions, software. First of all, software is a fundamental capability of every entity, whether it's a company or a country or whatever. So you can't have the software security has become a national security aspect, just like food security, energy security, and software security. The way you get to software security is through open source, because then you have access to the code. If you have access to the code, you can do whatever you want. Now, not every customer who uses us, who has access to the code, goes and modifies the code. But that backup is always available for them. If something goes wrong, if they kick it out, they can go in there. We get a bunch of, we are a US company, so we can't do business with a bunch of countries per the US rules. And we know there's a bunch of downloads from different places, and they use it. We have no business relationship with them, but they use the software. That's great. That's what open source is for. So our commitment to open source is unwavering. Everything, our general rule is, if you download and run it on your platform, it is open source. And we've been one of the rare companies that didn't go into any kind of open core kind of model. We said open source means 100% open source. All of our code base is open source. And anybody can do whatever they want with it. And we've had all kinds of fun and interesting stuff happen with our open source code base, which is fine. Right? So Choreo is different. Choreo is an internal developer platform, as I mentioned. It is a vehicle to deliver on the platformless vision as a service. So our goal with Choreo is to say, we want you to operate in a platformless way, and we don't want you to spend the time and effort to spend the 2 years, 5 years, 5 people, 10 people, 20 people to go build that platform. We will give you the best of breed experience, the best possible experience, because we are constantly investing into that across all our customer base, not where each person is going and figuring out every little part along the way. Right? So Choreo has been out there for a while. We have a whole ton of customers, a ton of users, and we've been running a small contest. We will talk about that later. And we have a set of new features I'm just going to briefly click through here. First is an AI copilot. So the interesting with Choreo is when you adopt Choreo fully, if the organization is building all their stuff on Choreo, which of course not many people are doing that yet. WSO2 is. Every single thing we run the company on is now built and operated on Choreo, and Asgardio as our identity platform. Choreo now sees all the assets of the digital business. Just as much as when you commit to GitHub, the repo, Microsoft, GitHub sees everything in that repo. And if you have a bunch of repos in an organization, GitHub can see all the repos in that organization. Here, we have the same level. We have all the repos because you register the repo for us to build on top of that. But we also see how they're being used. We can also see what are the APIs, what are the consumption patterns, what are the failure patterns. How often do you see commits coming for this particular API? How often do you see it evolving? So we expect that over time, we can create a copilot which is like an enterprise architect, an enterprise quality person, enterprise design person. Because we can now have access to all this information and create an experience that lets the every customer who creates something say, well, you're using this API, but it hasn't been updated for 2 years, and there are 10 other people using it, but they're all kind of dormant. Right? So give information that is instantly available from all the information that we have available underneath. So Choreo Copilot, we are not there to delivering any of that stuff yet. We are in a very first step. So we've now introduced Choreo Copilot. And as time goes along, all the underlying metadata that we have in Choreo will be ingested into the Choreo Copilot, obviously paying attention to things like GDPR, corporate data requirements, all of these things, right? And getting it into a way that we can deliver insights to customers with intelligence. Right? So that's a very powerful thing we believe we can do as time goes along. And there are a few things we've done. You can play with it, and it'll generate helpful instructions. It'll generate a few things right now. And this is something that we're going to keep on at it, and we keep adding a whole bunch of things as time goes along. Yeah, so there's API testing, of course. The thing that I saw I explained in API testing is also available here. Right? There's a CLI also we released recently, so you don't have to come to Choreo UI anymore to do anything. You can just use the CLI. As time goes along, our model is Choreo is a little bit like a Kubernetes kind of architecture, where Choreo is a stateful engine that knows where you want to be. And there are two UIs. There's the console and the CLI, where you can declare what you want to happen, and you commit it, and then Choreo makes it happen. Some things take time. For example, doing builds, pushing into different image repositories, getting it deployed take time. Some things are instant. But Choreo has a declarative architecture, very much like Kubernetes. This is the path that we are on, improving Choreo as we go along. And the CLI plays a big role in that as well, and the UI and the console. So that keeps us honest, saying there are now two different experiences. And there's a VS Code plugin as well, where there's a third experience, where the VS Code plugin also lets you manipulate Choreo from inside the plugin itself. Scale to zero is very important. This is basically serverless kind of experience, where when you have something running in Choreo right now, if you run something, if you want it to be available always, you have to always keep it running. But if it's something like an event handler or something that gets invoked rarely, keeping it running constantly is a waste of CPU, waste of money. So scale to zero lets you say, I want to be able to scale this to zero. When there's no load, scale it to zero and bring it back up. This is a very important feature that we are just rolling out. I mentioned the cell architecture, domains, and so on. We have a diagram that gets automatically generated from the components that shows you what a cell within, which is live right now, what the picture within a cell is, within a domain is. We now have the next layer coming up, which is we can look at all the cells across the enterprise, across your business, and see what the interconnections are. So you can say this group is talking with these other groups. And this is coming from the declarative information there, and we can also overlay on top of this a network information. Right? So we know the network data, the runtime data. From that, we can overlay on top of the static description the runtime invocations. Then you will be able to see, wait, why is there a call there? Because it's not in the code that I can see, right? And vice versa. So that's the idea that we are heading towards. This is in limited availability. Oops, sorry, I made a spelling mistake. Missing one Y. Apologies. And we will get this out very, very shortly. So underneath all this stuff that we do across the products, there are some things that are horizontal. So let me very briefly touch upon those so you can kind of understand. Just two topics I'm going to cover. One is AI. I think I touched on all of these things as we went along. We have an AI team who is focused on horizontally enabling AI across the company. Obviously, AI is a transformative kind of concept that we are dealing with, this generative AI universe with LLMs. Yet we also know that Gen AI, it's been now hot for about a year and a half or so, and yet it's still demoware for the most case. And I'm going to get shot by somebody who's a major AI fan for saying that. But what we see within enterprise use cases is still very much, it's great for helping human beings improve their things, whether it's writing text or creating images or various kind of things is fantastic. But where there's a human oversight, we're not at the point where we can put it on autopilot by any means and say, OK, just let it go. What it generates is good. And so we are in that phase. We have a horizontal team that facilitates understanding of AI across the board. And AI is not also, it's very important to understand also that AI doesn't mean just Gen AI. Right? Large language models and Gen AI are one aspect of AI. There's still anomaly detection, machine learning. There's other aspects of AI that we've also worked on over the years, which we are continuing to work on. Because those are important, and those will not go away. And there are different ways of solving different problems. Gen AI is not going to solve the problem of how do I predict based on the data what the next call is going to be like, right? Or detect an anomaly. That's not the purpose of Gen AI. So we do various things, and we are going to continue to focus on AI as a horizontal capability because it is very, very important. The other one is quantum safe. In fact, we have a talk on quantum computing. Professor Frank Lyman is going to be giving a keynote talk on quantum computing, which is kind of the other end of the universe scale that Professor Lisa Randall is going to talk about. And actually, she will connect both as well. I think Frank is going to connect both as well. We've been working on, and as many of you know, there is this concept of being quantum safe in cryptography. Many of the cryptography algorithms right now are vulnerable to the problem of save now, crack later. Right? Save all the encrypted stuff now, crack it later. And that's because the current algorithms that are used for encryption are not quantum safe. So there's a new set of algorithms that are available. So we've been introducing these algorithms. Identity server can now be enabled to run in quantum safe mode. And Ballerina also has the same underlying algorithms available so that you can write code that is quantum safe in terms of invocation, network traffic that we communicate. And this is something that we're going to keep on working at to add as much as possible quantum safe capability into the platform at the levels that are appropriate. All right, that's my quick product update. Now I'm going to switch topics a little bit. Anybody know what those are? Elephants. That's from an old picture I took a long time ago, so I apologize for the quality of the picture, but the elephants look a lot better than my picture depicts them. But there's an elephant in the room in WSO2, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. It's very important because I think a lot of people are wondering what it means, so I'm going to talk about that. As was announced on Friday, we have signed an agreement to be acquired by a company called EQT Partners. And I'm going to talk about what that means and et cetera for a few minutes. So first of all, who is EQT? EQT is a large private equity firm. It's a Swedish private equity firm. I think they're the 6th largest private equity firm in the world. And they basically, they buy up companies, and their model is they buy the company and they want to nurture the company for 5 years and move on to some next phase, basically. Right? So they buy the company, they want to make sure the company grows. Obviously, when you buy a company, the purpose is not to mess up the company, it's to build on it and to create value. It's a very large firm. We have been, the company that is doing the acquisition for WSO2 is from the India-based arm, which used to be called Barings Private Equity Asia before. And they bought a whole ton of software companies all over the world, software and service companies. And so we will be part of a larger family of companies as well. Let me just briefly explain what bought here means. So we are a company, we have a bunch of shareholders, we have a bunch of shares, we have employees who have stock options, et cetera, et cetera. EQT is buying 100% of the company, meaning they're buying all the shares, all the stock options, they will cash everything out, they're buying the company. And then next steps come. So what is next steps? So the next steps basically is to really grow the company. It is not just buy the company and let it sink. Now, if you know how I speak and my style of communication, this is a corporate bullshit slide. So let me talk about what it actually means. So right, and because it means something really good, and I want to make sure I communicate that very clearly without any kind of complication. So what it means from my perspective is that WSO2 version 1 finishes and version 2 starts at the point of closing. We're not closed yet because we're an international company, so there's regulatory approval that we need to get from a bunch of places in order to actually do the close. And that will take a couple of months, 2-3 months probably. And after we close, we are going to start WSO2 version 2. Let me explain what that means. So WSO2 version 1 was a company that we started in 2005 in Sri Lanka. And then we are a US parented company. Sri Lanka is a subsidiary, and we have subsidiaries in 10 countries. Sri Lanka still has about 80% of the workforce, but we have 20% now in 18 different countries all over the world. And we built the company up to a significant platform. This year, we expect to cross $100 million in ARR. It'll come in the second half of the year. And we've been profitable from 2017, except for 1 year after the Goldman Sachs investment, where we went on a big investment drive. And also, the world kind of turned at that year, 2022. The war started, inflation started, Ukraine war started, and inflation started. So we kind of went on a different, so we backed off from that. So we've been profitable right throughout from 2017 onwards. And we kind of come to a certain level of a company. That's quite unusual. I must make this clear. If you look at software companies, look at our competitors, almost none of them are profitable. They're depending on continuous funding injection. They spend more money on sales and marketing than they generate revenue, most of the companies. And that model is great. You can grow faster if you do that, but it's not sustainable. Right? There is no money printing anymore. That whole era is over. So you can't keep printing money and putting stuff back in. You need to actually deliver value to get some money. And we've been delivering value for a long time. We've been making our own salaries for a long time. And we know how to do this. And we've grown up to a certain level. And yet, for us to grow from here to being a long-term company, it's going to take a little bit more effort. It's going to take a little bit more power, more long-term thinking, more strategy, etc. And that's what we're getting from this. We've had a great set of investors. It's been great. They've supported us for 18 years, to 18 plus years. It'll be 19 on August 4th. So it'll probably be very close to that by the time we close. So we've had a great set of investors, but it's been a tough path, because when you try to build a company from that side of the world, every time I used to talk to investors, I would get 2 questions. Where the hell is Sri Lanka? And when are you moving back here? My answer would be, it's over there, and I'm not moving back. And like, well, OK, nice talking to you. I would say 50% of my conversations ended with that, without exaggeration. And I have every one of the names and lists in some spreadsheet somewhere. Right? I don't blame them. That's what they know. That's a comfort zone. That's the investment thesis. You invest in companies that are in a particular zone and particular environment, and where the management and the CEO is in a particular environment, and I wasn't. So it's been an upward battle to build the company, but we've now come to a certain path, and now we are going to a next stage. Right? So that's why I see it as version 2. So what does go forward? What does version 2 look like? So first of all, from a team perspective, I'm still going to be CEO. Some people might be disappointed, but I'm still going to be CEO. This is EQT is very committed to, wants me to continue, and I want to continue, because I started the company not to, we've had multiple acquisition opportunities. We've fought off with very lot of difficulty selling the company multiple times. And we did that because we started the company not to just make some money and go and do something else, but because we believe in a particular technical problem, and we believe in a particular way of doing something. We believe in making something that's going to be a long-term company that delivers on those things. And that takes time, and we've been able to pull that off with a lot of difficulty, and I'm very happy that the EQT wants to continue to build on that. They're not trying to go and change any of those things. So, of course, there will be some, whatever missing gaps we will fill, and we will evolve as we go along, and we'll become a bigger company. We are now 746 people at the end of April, and we'll continue to grow. But same team continues, basically. On the overall plan, the way it's going to work is that we will work with EQT on a 5-year plan, and then go execute that, fundamentally. We will have a great board coming in, an industry-specialized board. This is something we've never had in the history of the company. We've not had the luxury of a 5-year plan, where we can have a path saying, we are going to go do this, 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 and that will include all kinds of things, including M&A that we're going to do. And we've not been able to have that kind of support from the underlying foundation of the company. And our goal is to grow the company like crazy and build an independent long-term company, still maintaining profitability, not doing the negative spend that other companies have done, but do it the right way and grow. And that's what we are setting out to do. What does this mean for the culture? This is a comment from Chamath Palihapitiya when he was leaving Facebook. Culture is not a constant. There's the first part which says culture is not a constant. Culture is something that evolves, and you have to fight for it. When we started the company in 2005, we had 0 people, then we had 1, then we had 12. We grew and grew and grew, and then we shrunk and we grew. Things have moved along. People in different countries, All kinds of things have come and gone over the years. The fundamental values of culture, the aspects of culture, to me, comes from how you treat everybody else, including our customers, including our partners. We've never thought of our customers as somebody we can just get all the money from their wallet from. We've never done that. We've never thought of our customers as always right. Sorry. We will tell you if we don't agree with you, and we don't always do what you want. That's our job. We are supposed to be technical experts in this stuff. If we just do everything somebody else wants, we are not delivering on what we are supposed to deliver, right? So we don't do that. And so we play it in a certain way, and those fundamentals are not going to change. And the responsibility for that lies with all of us, including our customers, including our partners, but in particularly the employees, to fight for the culture the way it should be, not the way it is becoming, or the way it was. Right? And of course, customers and partners are critically important. You guys brought us here. We wouldn't become a $100 million company if not for you. We've had many times when I think Prakash is here today. He's going to be on the panel later. Prakash was one of our earliest customers, I think the first customer for the ESP. We have some very early customers for Choreo that are here. That's taking a bet. That's taking a risk. If not for people taking those risks, we wouldn't be here. And so they're very, very important, and every one of you is very, very important, because that's what allows us to keep building the company. So we are not going to have any change for you. If there is any change, then let me know, because that's not supposed to happen. Very simple. All right, I think this is my last slide. When we started the company, we had this vision that we want to build a real company, not some bogus thing that just flip something and solve a small problem. We set out to solve large problems. We created a programming language. Who in the world creates a programming language? You've got to be nuts to create a programming language. We've done that. We've created a platform that covers the entire software development space. We've created all this different technology, and we're going to keep doing that kind of stuff. But we don't do it with a complete thing saying this is exactly what we're going to do. We can only see that when you look backwards saying those are the right moves to make. So you go on your instinct, on your gut, and this applies for all of us, not just for WSO2. And hope that someday it'll connect in the future. Thank you very much. So I think we have about 5 minutes to answer some. If there's anybody who wants to answer any questions, I'm happy to take about 5 minutes or so we have available. Yes?
That you will continue as a CEO?
Okay. Question is there a contractual obligation for me to continue as CEO? I don't remember whether I signed something saying that, but I have signed it inside myself, which is more important. So yes.
That is also important from the other side as well.
They want me to continue as CEO because they are buying a company to build the company. Right? They are not. That's actually. Thank you for this question, because it's very important. So, general mindset of private equity firms is they buy a company and they bring in their own management team. Right? That's the general mindset that when private equity buys. So EQT is a little bit different. So this is one of the reasons we went with EQT as our partner. We had multiple people we were negotiating with. Finally went with EQT because EQT's model has very much been they empower the founder, especially the Baring Private Equity Asia Group, which is the India arm of EQT. They started off as an expansion stage group, basically. So they work with the founder and the company to build the company. They're not saying, okay, these managers need to be replaced. We bring some professional management and make the company a financial engineering problem. That is not, they're very explicitly made clear, the goal of buying WSO2 is not to do financial engineering on WSO2, which is what most private equity firms do. This is to do software engineering in WSO2, to build great product and to take that to market and give it to customers.
To get something from this deal,
yeah.
They really want to build this company. So that's the philosophy that will play a key role in future.
Yes, absolutely, yes. Our goal is to generate multiple times the value that we produce so far, not to just tug along. WSO2 was from day one a company that we set out saying we're going to try to capture the market, become number one. We are not there yet. We have great products, we have great customers. We got some fantastic stories, but we haven't won that market yet. And my goal is to get there in the next 5 years. There's a question over there on the right.
Hello. How do you think this deal will affect the open source DNA that WSO2 has?
Zero impact.
Okay.
Open source DNA, again, they are not coming in saying, let me look at your product stack and your engineering approach and your engineering methodologies and distribution techniques and see how to fix it.
Okay.
There's zero impact on that. We will make business decisions as we go along, of course. But and we've done that over the years too, where we've tweaked how we do open source, etc. But we are not. There's no fundamental change coming.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Silvia Bassi. I'm from Brazil, and I'm a journalist. I was invited by your team. Thank you so much for being here. I think this is my first time watching a company being in the middle of this kind of transaction live. My question is, in your letter, in your blog,
Yeah.
you mentioned that there is the WSO2Con, which was bought by EQT. And then you are going to build the WSO2, the new company. In both cases, you are going to be the CEO. You are the CEO, and you keep being the CEO. Can you tell us how is different from the CEO of the first version to the CEO of the second version?
Well, absolutely, I can tell you. So I'm planning to grow my hair again. So, people have tried to control me, and it hasn't worked very well, so I don't think that's going to work. Look, I work on things that I care about. The company has a purpose, and all the people in the company are supposed to have some purpose that drives them. There's some alignment from their purpose and the company's purpose. If there's no alignment, you shouldn't be in WSO2, because you're fighting with each other. If there's some alignment, it's okay. The greater the alignment, the better. Nobody will have 100% alignment, including me, right? So there's some alignment, and we pull together. That's my job continuing as well. And hey, I'm not getting any younger, so obviously I don't intend to be a CEO forever. I have to be, part of this 5-year plan has to be to have a continuity plan. If you're going to be a company that lasts forever, I think Jack Ma said it best. Jack Ma, when he started Alibaba, right? Yes. Said he started the company in 1990-something or the other, and he said he wants a company to last for 3 centuries, which means he can't be CEO, because he ain't going to live that long. So that's why he left as CEO fairly early. I think in about 10 years ago, he left as CEO. Somebody else took over. He became chairman, right? So the point is, if you want a company to last, you need to build systems. It cannot be about an individual. WSO2 is not about me. I have my own views on product stuff. Everybody agrees with me. We have fights when we have technical conversations because we don't all agree. And that's how it should be, because I'm not always right. And we will continue that approach for doing things. And the role of the CEO in a company is important. But one of the things I have done over the years is to try to reduce that importance, not to increase it. Because the point should be there's a system, it just runs. And somebody is there, there's a product. I spend most of my time on product strategy and product, less on business. Devaka runs all the business stuff. So if you think you're not paying enough, please talk to Devaka. He will happily take some more. Not me. Yes, one more.
Yeah, if you have time for one more, thank you.
Yes.
I think everybody here loves the products, loves the vision for where the company's going. It's very exciting. Is there anything you could talk about that 5-year growth that you were just mentioning? Is that what drives that strategic growth? Is that different products, different markets? Where's your thinking there?
Thank you. Yes, so we currently play in 4 different markets. So API management, integration, IAM, and internal developer platforms. Internal developer platforms is a nascent market, almost no revenue in that market yet. Huge opportunity, because every single company is figuring this stuff out. And there's going to be a huge opportunity there. We are one of the most leading products in that, especially when you look at the full stack of the problem that you need to solve. None of the others are at that level. So we are looking for market dominance in that market. We see huge possibility there. IAM, we have a ton of opportunity. We have a great product. We are still a very small company in IAM. We see massive opportunity to go after that market. Same with API management, same with integration. Integration with Ballerina, we have a product that is so much better than Mule and everybody else's technology-wise, but we haven't got it right in terms of experience yet. We are going to work on that. We're trying to deliver that better and better. And there are other segments like that we will add. So it's a combination of continuing to build the product segments that we operate in, plus M&A to drive inorganic growth, and improving go-to-market performance and how we go to market, where we go to market, all of that. So that's part of what we will work with EQT to work out that plan. How are we going to get this done? And what are we going to get done?